So I've been trying to work through a lot of videos today, so there should be some more content coming up, but I just wanted to start working through the actual photographs and reviews I got while I was at Nova Open as well. Don't want to fall too far behind, so I'm just going to not rush through, but it's not going to be massively in depth. It's going to be a series of shorter videos. Hopefully it'll work for a bit of audience retention. You won't get too bored of listening to me talking. But yeah, we'll get straight into it. So this is for the RuneWars miniatures battle game. We're going to look at the contents of a starter set. Obviously this is all still subject to change. The game is still in development, but this is from a demo that they were doing at Nova Open. I believe it's the same demo we had at Gen Con. And we're going to look at the Daqan part of the starter set, so the humans. So the first thing I wanted to pull up is the hero that comes in. So this is the leader. This is Kris Wraithstalker. So she has a nice balance. She's really strong in the starter set at the moment. Can really wreck any of the enemy units that she's put up against if you play correctly. But we'll just quickly cover off the card first. So obviously I've got both sides of a card in the picture and FFG's painted model as well. So the model looks pretty nice. Not a massive fan of this particular sculpt, but not because of the quality of the sculpt, just the actual miniature itself. And if we're going to look into like this kind of miniatures game where the painting is involving as well, I don't feel like it's too harsh of a criticism. I'll still pick the starter box up, I'll still paint her up, but she probably won't be my go-to hero once the game expands a little bit more. Just something like the posing just doesn't quite sit right with me, but it'll be fine, I'm sure. A lot of people disagree. So she has 4 wounds, which is the red in the top left-hand part of the... In fact, I can just point at it, kind of. So yeah. So stupid. I've done this enough by now, you'd think I know. So she's got 4 wounds behind a defense of 3, which means that you've got to roll 3 hits to do a single wound to her. So she's relatively tanky. Not gonna lie, you don't want to throw her in the thick of things for no reason. She has a ranged attack and a melee attack, both using the same dice. And then her special abilities are on the card here. So when she does a melee attack, if she rolls a focus result on a die, she can choose another enemy unit within range 1 to 5, and that enemy unit suffers 2 damage per surge spent. So she can get into melee with someone, hack that unit up, and then any excess surges, which we'll get onto a dial in a moment, but any excess surges you can splash damage onto other targets as well. So she has Brutal 1, which means that she counts as being a unit wider. So the way that the modifiers work for forming units and stuff like that is the number of trays wide you are adds in extra damage. And then she has Precise, which is the other side, so that's the number of ranks of trays you have, which let you re-roll those dice as well. So she effectively counts as being a unit that is 2 trays wide and 2 trays deep. So she's pretty good. And then on the other side of the card you'll see the army building rules for her. So she can only ever be taken in 1 tray. It shows you the way that tray set is set up. Obviously this will become more relevant as we go on to the other units. Then she costs 32 points, and then the available upgrades that she has. We didn't cover any of the upgrades in the demo games that I got to play, and then the ones that I watched and filmed and stuff as well. She does also have the text on the card reading, your army can include up to 1 unit from the elf faction, so there's going to be elves in the game. Then we'll go on to a dial. So the important parts to note are the white numbers around the edge of the left-hand dial is the speed at which you act. So she's got 3 2s, so she's got 3 actions she can do relatively quickly, and that is, I'm going to have to point out, so this one is her ranged attack, so she shoots at speed 2, which is really quick. This one is a special ability, which we don't actually have anything. This will come from the upgrades on the cards we're expecting. So at the moment I've nothing I can tell you about that one other than it happens quickly. And then this one here is the reform, and that lets you just rotate with her orientation. They're all green, which ties into the second dial. So for the modifier dial, you can sort in anything that's color coded. If you do any of these green ones, you can put in the +1 defense. So that would take her up to defense 4, which means you're going to do 4 hits to her to do 4 damage to do 1 wound to her. Then we have the 2 blue ones, so the 3 and the 4 speed, which is a moves, and that is a 2 move or a 3. And then you can dial in these modifiers, which is she can do the bank or a turn. It's a turn in RuneWars, a bank in X-Wing. And that one doesn't have any speed modifiers, so if you dial in a 2, you can do a 2 bank, and then if you dial in a 3, you can do the 3 bank. If you want to make it a charge, you can dial in these ones. So charging with a turn does have a -1 move modifier. So if you dial in a 3 and do the banking charge, you'll drop down to a 2 bank, and then from a 2 it drops down to a 1, that kind of thing. The white one on this one is generic, so you can dial in the rally on any of the colours. And then the red ones is her melee attack, so she gets to melee attack at speed 4, and then she can either add in an automatic surge or add in an accuracy, which again didn't really get explained to me, so I'm not 100% sure what that does yet. I believe it'll activate certain abilities and things like that, but I could be wrong. Obviously I didn't get a copy of the rules or anything, but once I know, I will let you all know. And then the only one I didn't cover is this one, which is the 1 reposition. So rather than having to do normal templates from these moves, you can actually slide right, left, or backwards. So she just gets to position. I've got some game footage later on, which will come in another video where I try and show this rule to a fullest. These dice I found when I used her pretty swingy. You can get the white one is a D12, the blue one's a D8. Blue one's got a good amount of surges, and then you're relying on basically the white die to give you a massive punch of damage. But it's pretty reliable, you will do something, especially if you're in melee with someone. You generate the surge automatically, so you can at least try and pepper other units whilst you, even if you're not really doing anything to the guy you're fighting. And that's Kris. So I'll move on to the next one, which was just a Spearman. So these guys are your just normal rank and file. So I'll go into the damage first. So 1 damage kills 1 guy. You buy them in trays of 4. It's not the best picture, so let me see if I can pull up my zoomed in one just to get the right cost for the individual. But yeah, you basically buy them in formations, and the cheapest one you can get is 2 wide, and I believe that one is 18 points. Yeah, that's right. So you can buy them just 2 wide for 18 points. Then if you buy this block here, so it shows you the layout that you have to have them 2 by 2, that costs 30 points. Yeah, so that's here. If you want to buy 6, you go to 3 wide, 1 deep, costs 40 points and get these extra upgrades. If you want to buy 9 of them, it's 89 points and goes with all of these upgrades here and goes 3 by 3. I found them to be really useful, pretty punchy with the red and the blue. It can do a decent amount of damage. Their ability on the card is if you get 2 surges, you get to receive 1 inspiration token. Never came up in any of the games I was playing in, just because I don't think the red, I don't know how likely it is. I didn't sit down and cover the dice properly. I know there is a thread on the FFG forums that break the dice down properly, so I'll read that and then I'll report back on the different dice properly. But I say it didn't come up in my games. but it didn't really need to, so we'll wait and see. Then they have their actions are for the greens. They've got a good speed of actual attack. The yellow is a speed 3 melee attack, but obviously there's no yellow on the dial, so you can only add in a special modifier which will need an upgrade card to do anything, compared to the speed 7 red attack, which you can add in automatic damage. So it's really good. You get the options if you need to strike early, depending on what you're fighting against. So if you're against a rune golem, which is going to be quite ponderous and slow, as we'll get to, you might want to wait for the speed 7 and get that extra damage. Equally, you can just try and turtle up and not take any damage, so you can stick a rally token on yourself and go +1 defense. You can do you can slide back from combat and do +1 defense. There's lots of different things you can do in that way. The blues also have a +1 defense, so if you're just trying to advance on the enemy, especially if they've got archers, stuff like that, just a straight march with the +1 defense is pretty good, but you've got to note the speed at which it comes in. So if their only fire, for example, was Curry, she shoots at speed 2, so that would go before anything you can do, so you don't get a chance to add in your modifiers. And then all of the wheels and banks have modifiers for the move, so the fastest they can go is actually a 3 forwards, and they can do the 4 forwards, but they don't get to add in any modifiers. It has to be straight ahead, and that's at speed 8, so they can get caught pretty easily. And then the next one I've covered up all the other stuff, is the Oathsworn Cavalry. These guys, from my experience, hit like a truck, especially if they still have them 4 wide when they hit, but they're pretty good. I like them. They were come in 2 for 20, go up to 4, so again you can take up to 9 of them, which that looks massively scary. The only way to get them 3 wide is to go to 9, and as we talk about and look at the maneuver templates later on, the way the wheels work is really interesting. You can really get some extra movement, so I'm definitely going to try a 9 wide, a block of 9 at some point in my gaming with them, just to see how effective they can be and how much they just roll face. But again, they have the same special ability as the Spearman did, where they have receive 1 inspiration token for 2 surges. They also have impact. When you collide with an enemy during a charge, that unit receives 1 panic token. So they start disruption even before you roll any die. It's really good. Again, they have 2 speeds for attack. We've got the yellow speed 3, which they do have a usable white on there, so they can still do this quick attack and add damage, add defense. And defense is 2, so it takes 2 wounds to get 2 damage to do 1 wound. And if you do that one, obviously they'll go up to 3 damage for 1 wound. They roll 2 red dice in a boy, so I don't think I've ever not killed a base of skeletons when I've charged in with these guys, especially when you consider if you can hold out for the speed 7 attack, you get an extra damage as well. Really powerful. And then if you compare the speed of moves to infantry, they've got a lot of variety in what they want to do. So they can go speed 3 for a 1 forwards, which they could then potentially add in a 2 forwards from as well. So it lets them get the jump on someone and really reposition quite well. They can go 4 forwards with a 2 as well, but that really does slow them down somewhat in initiative. But it's a massive move. A 4 and then the 2 will put them a long way across the table. The greens have a rally and a reposition, which only lets them have a defense, But as you can see, there's a lot of versatility to these guys, and this was one of my favourite units to use on the day when I was playing with them. Then we have the Rune Golem. This is the most swingy unit in the base set that I found, because it all goes on what the runes that have been cast are. So basically you get a fixed move of 2 forwards at an 8, or sorry, we'll go into the actual stats first. So this one guy cost, I think it was 18 points, and again you can go up to a unit of 6 of them. You won't get 1 in the base set, and I believe that they're supposed to be being sold in blocks of 2, but I'm not 100%, it's not been confirmed, it's just the rumours I've heard. 2 reds for attack, so it's pretty beefy and can do a good amount of damage. He does have brutal as well, so he doubles what he rolls. So he really piles out the damage, especially if you start looking at having 2 of them. So you've got 2 lots of brutal effectively. And then the interesting part about them was the variable speed move here. It's 4, depends on the number of icons that come up when you cast the runes, as does this defense bonus. So if you actually do the attack, you can stack the defense bonus, but it does depend on what the runes that were cast. So it changes, and it can really affect the game, especially the first time I played. We got a really good casting of the runes in the first turn, so I could really throw him out in the front and let him take some punishment, because if the enemy doesn't roll 4 damage, he doesn't take any wounds. He's only got 2 wounds, but when you consider that once he gets in combat, I had him having to deal 6 damage to him to deal 1 wound, and even for some of the characters that was starting to get really difficult. But as I said, he is pretty slow and ponderous. His only attack is at speed 5, so he can get hit before he gets a chance to token up. Then I was going to just show some of the runes. So these were different symbols I was talking about, and the die. So from what I feel like, the blue dice are more surge and ability reliant. The red ones have more damage, and then there's just a crap ton of symbols on these white die. This stuff over here is the a morale deck, as it were. So as you deal, these symbols come up here. They cause morale tests. That's, I think it was one of the ones that was on the earlier. Yeah, I think that was on Curry's dial. I can't remember now. But you can force these to draw a card. So each one of these results that comes up, you draw one of these cards, and then the actual number of symbols relates to a number of symbols that you've got. And then if you have enough, so if you draw this one, it only costs 1. So you spend 1 symbol. These ones have got more punishing effects, but it does need 3 symbols to do. And stuff like, in one of the games I've got a video of you force a retreat move and stuff like that, and you get to position them. And then the actual runes themselves, so these 5 coins, it's only 2 sides each, and you have the green runes, which from the start of the game help the skeletons. And then the blue ones are how quickly your rune golem's going to move, and the red ones are how tanky it is. I think it was that way around, but bye. Then the actual manoeuvre template, so I stuck Curry in here just to give you an idea of size, because it's quite easy, especially if we're used to playing X-Wing, to get lulled into just thinking that they're the same size. They aren't. Obviously these aren't going to be the templates that come in the game, there will be cardboard ones, so they could be subject to change. But you can see the 1 forwards is basically 1 base length, 2 is 2 base length, and so forth. But the biggest one here is like this 3 bank is absolutely massive. And when you consider if you've got a wide cavalry unit, because it goes from the side of a base as I'm showing here, it goes front corner to front corner. If you do the bank, it really swings around. So it's going to be interesting. The range rulers here as well. Obviously, the only things I've seen from this one was Curry's ability and the archers, and they're both range 5. but I'm sure there'll be more intricacies coming out of it. Gameplay wise, you're allowed to measure range with a range ruler at any time. You're not allowed to stick for maneuver templates down and check that, but you can compare the maneuver templates to the range ruler and try and make an informed decision that way. Yeah, so that's my run through of the actual units from the Daqan set, or the Daqan half of the starter set. My feeling on them, it's a nice balance. Obviously, as you see the other half as well, you'll get the understanding that it's quite obviously a starter set force. You've got both sides have a big block of infantry, both sides of a character. Kuri is quite punchy and just can do work herself. The other guy is more support and relies on the synergies of the build, and then the cavalry on the human side for a Daqan are just hit like a truck. And then the Rune Golem as well gives you a really good feel for how the random elements and that kind of stuff's going to work. It's pretty nice. They don't really have... I didn't find too difficult to use. I picked up pretty much straight away how the force was supposed to work, and it is just to try and lock someone in place with your Spearman or your Rune Golem, and then use the other stuff to come in, capitalise on it, get them out of the way quickly, move on, rinse and repeat. If you can do that, you'll probably come out on top of these guys. Yeah, that's about it. And then I should try and work on the video for the skeletal half of the set. But yeah, really excited. I'm definitely liked the feel of the look of these guys straight away. The Spearmen all look really cool. There's 3 different poses for models, I think. When you mix them into a unit, it looks pretty good. The Knights are just awesome. I really, really want to try a unit of 9 of them and just roll people's faces. Yeah, it comes out at around about 100 points, I believe, if you go through and add them all up, I suppose. I can have a look at that now, because I'm, incompetent. So, Spearman were 36, I think it was. 36, and then Courier is 32. Cavalry was 20, and then a Rune Golem is 16 or 17, something like that. We'll go 17, I can't really read it. So that's about 105 points, give or take. So that feels about right, but that's half of what you need for a full game. So you're probably looking at 2, maybe 3 block units, some supporting cast, and then 1 character. Is how I feel like most of the games are going to go. Not seeing any other units, but that's just the feel I'm getting from it. Yeah, if you've got any questions, try and ask them in the comments, or just hit me up on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. I'll do my best to answer. I do have little bits and pieces of like photographs and stuff I wrote down. It's really hard to try and translate into a video. But if you've got any questions, feel free to hit me up. Thanks a lot, guys.